Hey MPM fam, I'm Megan Cusack, editor of Motorcycle and Powersports News, and today we're here in Palm Springs at the La Quinta Resort as part of the Kawasaki 2025 NAV product launch. We got to test drive the NAV today in, a place where it would be intended for, and we kind of put it through its paces. So here's our review. Peachtree City, Georgia, The Villages, Florida, Sun City, Arizona. If you've heard of any of these cities, you might realize they have something in common. They're all residential communities where the expected mode of transportation is a golf cart, not a car. And these are hardly the only 3 cities in America adopting this model. There are several across the southern US, and more powersports dealers have been noticing that customers are buying UTVs in lieu of golf carts for just this purpose. But UTVs are meant for off-road riding. They're not street legal. Kawasaki saw an opportunity here. Utilizing decades worth of side-by-side technology development, along with its more recent EV motorcycle knowledge, the brand has decided to enter the personal transportation vehicle, or PTV, space. But what exactly is a PTV, and how is it different from a golf cart? Golf carts are created for, naturally, the golf course, as well as private property, so technically they aren't street legal either, and they're not regulated by any government authority. The average one comes in basic white with small tires and golf ball holders. These carts have an average max speed of 15 miles per hour. PTVs, however, are regulated on the local and state level, but not by the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, or NHTSA, and cannot go faster than 20 miles per hour. Finally, there's the low-speed vehicle, or LSV, which has a max speed of 25 miles per hour and is governed by NHTSA, which means it is considered a motor vehicle. So, Kawasaki's adamant claim that the NAV is not a golf cart is true, and there are several features separating it from that type of vehicle, which we'll get into in a minute. In fact, it even set up a separate microsite, notagolfcart.com, for people to learn more about the NAV. But it wasn't enough for Kawasaki to put out a PTV. The NAV itself is an acronym, the Neighborhood Activity Vehicle. Just as the name jet ski has now become synonymous with all personal watercraft, Kawasaki is hoping to once again create an entry in the dictionary with the NAV. So, you don't ride a NAV, you nav to the pool, nav to the clubhouse, nav to the courts, and so on. But let's start with a few stats. The NAV 4E comes in 3 trim levels, the standard 4E, the 4E LE, and the 4E Limited. What separates the standard 4E from the LE are the batteries, and thus the price point. Kawasaki wanted to make a more economical option for customers, so the 4E features 6 lead-acid batteries and is priced at $12,999. While the LE comes with 2 lithium-ion batteries and is priced at $15,999. Finally, the limited model is $19,999. For those willing to fork out some extra money, the lithium-ion batteries more than pay for themselves. For the conceivable life of the vehicle, they will be maintenance-free. No need to top them off with water like the lead-acid ones will need from time to time. In addition, the range on the NAV 4E goes from 17 miles with the lead-acid batteries to 40 miles with the lithium-ion ones. Charging is simple. The charging port is convenient but discreetly hidden below the steering console. And, best of all, there's no need to invest in new infrastructure for this EV. The NAV 4E plugs into your standard 110-volt socket and takes 10 hours to charge for the base model and 11 for the LE and limited ones. Being an EV, the NAV 4E features a regenerative system. In other words, when you let your foot off the accelerator, power flows back into the battery until or unless you push down on either the accelerator or the brake. I found that, at the speeds the NAV 4E operates, taking my foot off the accelerator was usually more than enough to decelerate. I only needed to use the brake in sudden situations or for keeping the vehicle in place while on an incline or behind someone in line. Speaking of brakes, the NAV 4E features 160mm drum brakes. While that might sound bland to powersports enthusiasts who are used to the quality of performance-oriented brakes, those aren't needed for the NAV. After all, the NAV 4E's speed tops out at 19 miles per hour, and I even tested out its stopping power on a closed cone course Kawasaki set up for us. You can see the results for yourself. The NAV has a rated power of 4 kilowatts at 5,200 RPM and a max torque of 37.6 pound-feet at 2,000 RPM. I managed to push the nav up to its max speed several times when driving along the roads of the resort, and it's honestly plenty for its intended use. The 14-inch wheels with off-road tires are great for navving over concrete and grass alike, even if it is just a two-wheel drive vehicle. While the suspension is not going to compare to a UTV, McPherson struts in the front and leaf springs with hydraulic shock absorbers in the rear, Kawasaki did take inspiration from its side-by-sides and created a lifted vehicle with a 7.3-inch ground clearance that does ride smoothly, even when you take it over curbs and speed bumps. The 12.8-foot turning radius is actually pretty tight for this vehicle, and it was surprisingly nimble as I took it around the twists of the cone course. Okay, so we've talked about some of the specs. Now let's talk features, because those are what separate the NAV from the golf cart. Let's start with the basics, the key. Did you know that for most golf carts and PTVs, one key fits every vehicle in the model line? This can lead to major vehicle mix-ups in the parking lot, but with the NAV4E, that's no longer an issue. As with automobiles, each key is specific to each vehicle. In fact, the NAV4E takes many inspirations from cars, which makes it very intuitive to drive. From the physical key to accelerators and brake pedals, a steering wheel, and turn signals, automotive drivers will find all the gadgets that are familiar to them. And it's easy enough for teens to operate as well if local or residential ordinances allow for it. That said, some of the automotive functions you're used to don't necessarily carry over. For instance, when I engage the turn signal in a car, I'm used to hearing it click repeatedly until I execute a sharp enough turn, at which point the turn signal automatically switches off. That's not the case with the NAV. The turn signal is both silent and stays in position until manually reset. Luckily, Kawasaki does have turn signal indicators on the little dash panel behind the steering wheel, so after driving a block or two with my turn signal on, I did finally realize I had never turned it off. Storage space is plentiful in the NAV and will accommodate most everything a family needs. From the front trunk, or frunk, to the glove compartment, to the rear storage and the nets behind the driver's bench, there's plenty of storage for towels, phones, bags, and more. Of course, for even more storage, Kawasaki has taken it to the next level and offered a category first by making the back seat able to not only flip down to create a cargo bed, but for the back support to flip up to accommodate loading large items from the rear. Kawasaki has also put in its quick release or KQR mounts along the edges of that cargo bed to handle accessories. There are KQR mount placements along the outer edges of the NAV so that they can be stored out of the way when the seat is flipped up. By the way, did I mention that the back seat faces forward instead of backward, like in most golf carts? This was a key feature for Kawasaki, as one of the company's main goals for the NAV is to promote family time, which is a lot easier when you're all facing the same way. The NAV4E also features 6 cup holders that can hold Yeti and Stanley-sized tumblers. And of course, charging is a must nowadays, so the NAV4E comes with 4 USB ports, 6 in the Limited, for the driver, passenger, and the rear passengers. Both standard and USB-C ports are available. Speaking of the Limited model, I would be remiss if I didn't point out all the little extra features you can enjoy with it. And I admit that getting to test ride one might have ruined me for the less premium models. First of all, the Limited model sets itself apart in style. While all 3 trim levels have that classic Kawasaki look and come with sharp all-LED lighting, the Limited, with its metallic deep red paint, a brush guard style bumper, floor lighting, 2-tone leatherette seats with NAV embroidery, and flip-down PVC windshield, just screams luxury. In addition, it comes with a 7-inch LCD display with Bluetooth connectivity, as well as Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. A 4-speaker mounted roof audio system completes the package. Connecting my phone with Android Auto was as easy as it's supposed to be, and sound comes through the speakers crystal clear. There's one final detail I want to share about the NAV4E, and it turned out to be my favorite one, because it's ingenious: the roof. How can a PTV roof be ingenious, you might ask? Well, imagine you own a golf cart and drive it around in the villages in Florida. The daily rain shower hits, and you take shelter inside a shop or clubhouse. The rain only lasts 30 minutes, but when you back out of your parking spot, all the water that's collected on the smooth roof comes rushing over the lip and down onto the front of the vehicle and dashboard, splashing you in the process. The NAV4E roof aims to counter that. Now, being in the desert, I wasn't able to test this feature, But the roof is designed with deep grooves that channel the water to the hollow front A-frame, where it is then dumped out behind the front wheel wells, sparing you the wet. The flip-down PVC windshield on the limited model, available as an accessory for the standard and LE models, will also help keep you dry. Speaking of accessories, Kawasaki has a ton available for the NAV, including but not limited to a PTV soft enclosure, side mirrors, running boards, a cargo barrier, rear storage locking box, cargo rack, and accessory mount brackets. Kawasaki's target consumer for the NAV 4E wants minimal upkeep in an attractive package with a focus on convenience. With the low-maintenance EV platform, premium styling, and automotive feel to the NAV 4E, and the Limited in particular, I'd say Kawasaki smashed it right out of the pickleball court for a win. All right, well, there's our review of the NAV, and be sure to stay tuned to MPN for more of the latest and greatest in motorcycle and powersports news.